Let's do this. Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Ochoa Rincon. I am the Decorative Arts Trust Curatorial Fellow at the New Orleans Museum of Art. And my fellowship for the past 2 years was kind of made to focus on a glass exhibition in conjunction with a catalog on our glass collection at NOMA. And that's what I've been doing for the past year and a half, but I've also been able to do a lot of other interesting things. I've been able, for the past year and a half, to give gallery talks to visitors, talk to them about their experiences, how they view the collection, how they view the museum. I've been able to give docent trainings, teaching people about a collection, an exhibition we had on rings. I've also had the privilege to do radio and TV interviews, getting my face out there, having a lot of fun with that. So it's been a really, really amazing experience so far. But what makes it better is the fact that under the leadership of Decorative Arts and Design Curator Mel Buchanan, I've been able to really expand on what I consider to be my own curatorial vision and how it differs from the way that we traditionally do museum work. So, a great example of this is to the left, you can see a picture of me doing my very first gallery talk. I was very nervous, but I got to speak on 4 pieces of Meissen porcelain manufacturing figures entitled The Four Continents, based on an allegory from a 17th century folio. These were modeled by German designer J.J. Kandler, and as you can see to the left, you see Europe poised in beautiful regalia, holding the orb of knowledge, standing on top of a white, magnificent horse. You could obviously see the way Europe presented itself, how it viewed itself as opposed to the rest of the world. And then to the right, you see the representation of Africa, which represents only what can be taken from her. And these objects stirred some really, really interesting conversations with visitors about Orientalism and the way that museums collect and how they decide to present really intensely, seemingly unproblematic, but actually really problematic objects such as this one. And the danger and regressiveness that we can face if we don't attack these problems head on. And my indigenous identity ties directly into my curatorial vision. I am a Muisca and Uwa Indian coming from the Andes of the mountains of Colombia, and growing up, visiting with my grandmother, every time we would look at an object, no matter if it was a super fine object or super ordinary object, she would always say the same thing. She would always say, todo lo mío, which roughly translates to all of my relations. And that's how we tend to view objects as indigenous people. We view ourselves as stewards, and we also view these objects as our brothers, our sisters, our cousins, our family. And just like family, they can be very problematic. They can be complicated. And we shouldn't shy away from that complication and those problems with the object. Instead, we need to face them and consider how other people visiting the museum who may not look like us could feel about particular objects such as this one. Now, to continue on to that idea, I really want my scholarship and the way that I view things to be proactive instead of reactive. And I fully believe that by using indigenous methodologies, we can get to that point where we're not just reacting to the criticism that we receive as institutions, we're actively choosing to go in different paths. So the question is, how can we evolve connoisseurship? I'm sure everyone in this room has heard of Charles F. Montgomery and his 6 steps for how to view an object. What is your emotional connection to this object? What is the form of the object? How is the object ornamented? What are the materials comprising the object? How is the object put together? What is the function of the object? I'm not saying to throw out Charles F. Montgomery. I fully believe that this has a very important place in the way that we do connoisseurship work and curatorial work. But I also believe that we can go so much further. How do we go from here? How can we expand this? Does this go far enough? And this is where we need to examine the good, better, best narrative. What makes me cautious about connoisseurship is its traditional practice of categorizing things into good, better, and best. This has an extremely checkered history of excluding certain objects, ideas, and people, particularly people of color, from the canon. And my largest contribution to this glass project was to keep an eye out for those good objects. Not the better, not the best, but the good. And we'll talk about that beautiful piece of milk glass later. And in order to do that, we really needed to look at our collection. We have a pretty massive glass collection comprising of almost 5,000 objects, spanning over 3,500 years of history. It's a really, really beautiful collection. And we were able to work closely with three experts: Sid Goldstein from the St. Louis Art Museum, Kit Maxwell from the Art Institute of Chicago, and Kelly Conway from the College of William and Mary. They helped us understand our ancient glass, European glass, and American glass so much better. And we were able to do this because of a massive gift that was given to us in the 1950s by collector Melvin P. Billups, who was born in 1879 in Mobile, Alabama, but actually lived in New Orleans because his wife, Clarice, was from New Orleans. And he gave us, in the 1950s, a gift of over 3,000 glass objects, spanning those 3,500 years of history. And it kickstarted a tradition of dedicated and serious collecting of decorative arts and glass at the New Orleans Museum of Art, shaping its legacy for decades to come. Now, we'll just talk about some of these objects really quick before we delve into the meat of things. To the left, we have a beautiful Syro-Palestinian group of glass objects with trail decorations. In the middle, we have a stunning example of a Dutch engraved goblet. To the right, we have a wonderful example entitled Mother Vessel from contemporary artist Deborah Zaresko, which features vulvas and breasts and really kind of challenges the male-dominated craftsmanship in the glass industry. Next, we have a great early example of early leaded glass, George Ravenscroft. Anybody? Who lived from 1833 to 1883. In the middle, we have an elegant and fine example of an English decanter. To the right, we have a fabulous example of an early American engraved glass in the Venetian style by John Frederick Amelung. We have more glass, aluminum on glass, by J. and L. Lobimer Glassworks in Vienna, Austria from 1883. We have modernism in glass in the middle with Hans Bolek from Austria in 1915. And we have to the right a different and unique way of experiencing glass forms, like this Chini Borni 1987 design of a glass chair. Now, while Mel was doing the traditional good, better, best work, I took inspiration from people like Fred Wilson to find stories within the good. Behold the awe-inspiring The Way the Moon's in Love with the Dark by Fred Wilson, an enchanting chandelier that unfolds a narrative through its intricate details. Standing 7 feet tall, this Murano-style floral glass masterpiece seamlessly intertwines Venetian and Ottoman influences, creating a mesmerizing dance between darkness and light, metal and glass, floral and geometric, European and Middle Eastern, history and modernity. Within this captivating piece, Wilson, a visionary challenging racial assumptions for over 2 decades, especially in museums, breathes life into glass art. Drawing inspiration from the historic African population, often overlooked in Venetian art, he uses the rare black color of Murano glass as a powerful lens. This lens explores race relationships, erasures, mementos, and the harmonious convergence of literature with artwork. The Way the Moon's in Love with the Dark becomes a profound exploration of Venetian-Ottoman relations and their interconnectedness to the global tapestry of Blackness. The title, derived from Alexander Pushkin's unpublished novel On Othello, weaves a narrative connecting the Pushkin's great-grandfather, Abram Petrov Ganabal, an enslaved African who ascended to Russian nobility with ties to the Ottoman Empire. Gaze upon the chandelier, where Wilson vividly paints a picture of Ganabal's transcultural experience by overlaying Ottoman design lamps on a Black European glass core. Symbolically, it mirrors the often conflicting empires and positionality of the Black body in a captivating dance reminiscent of Pushkin's great-grandfather or the artist himself. This piece is not just a chandelier. It's a profound exploration of Blackness woven into glass, encapsulating opposing traditions within a single breathtaking object. As you explore this picture, witness the passionate statement on race, class, power, cultural tension, and global interconnectedness. Glass art then becomes a vessel circulating ideas, design, and human connection across time. Fred's assertion on how museums collect and how they re-traumatize Black and brown bodies is ever present in this piece, and it's present in the work that we're trying to do with this exhibition. These are all ideas we are exploring and coming to terms with for, I'm gonna plug our exhibition and catalog entitled Sand, Ash, Heat, Glass at the New Orleans Museum of Art. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it will be published and ready to buy by August of this year. And we have our exhibition that comes along with it, opens August 30th, 2024 through February 10th, 2025. Deeply hope to see all of you there. In making this catalog, we recognize the importance of including a diverse pool of contributors and to walk away from the assertive, all-knowing curatorial voice. We had people like Alex Sanchez, a chemist working in New Orleans Museum of Art with glass, Zella Palmer, a food historian at Dillard University, Ingrid Zabe, our conservator at the New Orleans Museum of Art, Chief Dow Edwards, a Mardi Gras Indian. We had an interview with artist and Tulane head of glass, Jean Claus. We worked with, also contributing, were curators of NOMA, Brian Piper, photography, and Amanda Maples, African art. We also worked with Christopher Maxwell from the Art Institute of Chicago. Mel Buchanan contributed deeply. And of course, I also contributed to the catalog a decent bit. And now that we've discussed my overarching vision and the people who have contributed to this wonderful project, I want to delve into some of these unique and oftentimes misunderstood objects. We're back to the milk glass. Picture this. Mel and I, it's maybe July, Mel and I are on off-site storage. We're looking through our glass collection, seeing if anything inspires us. We're going down one of the halls, and I see this to the left, milk glass covered dish featuring a hen that's coming out of the egg. And the first thing that Mel says when I point it out to her is, wow, that's extremely tacky. And you know what? She's absolutely right. It is kind of tacky. But you know what? I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. And I don't think we should view it as that, kind of breaking from that good best narrative. Because let's embark on a journey that takes us from a utilitarian 19th century American milk glass to the exquisite craftsmanship of 18th century Bohemian Schwissen-Gold Glaser. These glass artifacts reveal the hopes and longings of a burgeoning middle class and the elite of Europe, separated by time, value, and audience. In the realm of the American middle class, the opaqueness of milk glass embodied more than just tableware. It symbolized a longing for a fading agrarian lifestyle. As industrialization swept through the nation in the 1880s, a covered bowl resembling a basket of eggs adorned with a recently hatched chick became an iconic design patented by Pittsburgh's Atterbury Company. Cows, fish, bunnies, and kittens grazed common milk glass forms, serving as visual escapes for consumers yearning for a connection to a past centered on farm life. In the face of rapid industrialization and a changing food production system, these machines produced depictions carried a tension between the modernization and romantic ideals of nature. Meanwhile, in 18th century Europe, as you can see to your right, this Schwissen-Gold Glaser emerged as a testament to craftsmanship, delicacy, and exclusivity. Crafted from fragile glass adorned with expensive gold and silver, these vessels were the epitome of skillful artistry. The intricate decorations on Noma's Schwissen-Gold Glaser depicts men riding around horseback pursuing a boar. The Rococo styles of the 18th century, with their references to nature, reflected a desire for simplicity in the face of urbanization. Sound familiar? Both the milk glass and the Schwissen-Gold Glaser share a common thread, a deep connection to those pastoral scenes. And in the midst of industrialization, Americans yearned for a visual escape to a simpler farm life, while the European elite sought solace in the serene countryside scenes of their Schwissen-Gold Glaser. These glass artifacts, though separated by time and social status, echo the universal human desire for a connection to nature and a pastoral past. By putting these objects in conversation with one another, instead of just leaving the tacky one out, we actually get to learn so much more about both of these objects. And I think that's pretty cool. So moving on. Objects can also have a deep and unspoken narrative about political thought in times such as this 1824 Baker and Martin mold-blown liquor flask. These were not merely vessels for spirits. They were conduits of our nation's essence, embodying a utilitarian functionality intertwined with the very fabric of our culture, politics, and economy. Imagine, if you will, the American mold-blown flask, each one a silent narrator for the nation's journey. Designed for those in constant motion, these flasks transported not only liquids, but also encapsulated the evolving identity of a nation on the move. Some proudly bore patriotic symbols while mirroring the growth through colonization and expansion, while others boldly conveyed explicit political messages. And in these moments of history, a flask becomes more than a container. It's transformed into a proclamation of identity and pride. Consider, too, the political nature of these objects. Take, for example, this Pennsylvania-made flask with the powerful inscription, "Use me, but do not abuse me." This wasn't just a cautionary message. It delves into the heart of the American system, an economic plan introduced by Henry Clay in 1824. This plan aimed to unite our nation by championing domestic products through tariffs, fortifying the central bank, and supporting infrastructure construction. And as we reflect on these historical artifacts, we must recognize the dual role of that slogan, not merely a reminder of political discourse of its time, but also a warning to those who might exploit the newfound stimulus system. In the hands of those who wielded them, these flasks became more than just containers. They became embodiments of a nation in motion, capturing the essence of our culture, politics, and economic aspirations. The medium of glass extends from the political and social and encroaches into religious discourse, creating narratives that might make some people uncomfortable. Imagine stepping into a world where the ethereal meets the tangible, where history and design intertwine in a dazzling dance of brilliance. Welcome to the mesmerizing realm of mercury glass, a style so enchanting that it left an indelible mark on both the decorative and spiritual landscapes. These examples from the mid-19th century carry with them a long and complicated history of craft and religion. In the late 19th century, a time when opulence was sought and silver was a symbol of affluence, enters mercury glass, a cost-effective alternative that captivated the hearts of designers and architects alike. Despite its name, this glass has no mercury, but achieves its glittering allure through a magical process. A solution of silver nitrate dances between the layers of a double-wall transparent glass, creating a reflective masterpiece that mimics the term of actual silver. These were very common in utilitarian middle-class homes, and they were actually known as poor man's silver. And it carries a profound meaning in religious contexts. Imagine its presence in churches, temples, and even homes. And we have to remember how that may make some people feel. I, coming as an indigenous person who was forced to convert to Catholicism, might feel a very intense way when I look at an object like this, because it's meant to be beautiful and gorgeous and emblematic of the grandeur of religion. But it all goes back to my idea of a curatorial vision. We have to think not just of how we view it, but how our community views these objects. That's really critical, and that's where the hard work comes in. Now, that uncomfortability continues with this 1840 to 1850 Bohemian goblet featuring 19th century New Orleans skyline. These delicate vessels aren't just relics, they're powerful tokens of travel, etched with stories of impressive buildings. Take, for instance, this souvenir goblet from 1850, proudly engraved with New Orleans. Looking closely, you'd witness a vivid panorama, the ships navigating from the Mississippi River, the spires of the St. Louis Cathedral, and the cupola of the St. Charles Hotel. Yet, within these glass relics lies a concealed narrative, one of exploitation and enslavement. The laborers behind these iconic structures were often individuals in chains, their contributions obscured by the veneer of opulence. The St. Charles Hotel, like its counterpart featured here, the St. Louis Hotel, became a haunting site for auctioning and of enslaved people, marking New Orleans as the epicenter of domestic slave trade before the Civil War. In this splendid edifice, some reveled in parties and fine dinners, while others faced dehumanizing ordeals of being bought and sold. This glass, the seemingly innocuous souvenir, serves as the potent reminder that historical objects are not one-dimensional. They encapsulate narratives of both grandeur and oppression. The very form of this goblet beckons us to examine it closely, to unveil the entire tapestry of a city teeming with complex and riveting stories. Let us not don our rose-colored lenses. For a close examination of the souvenir goblet reveals the raw, intertwined histories of those who lived, toiled, and were enslaved in pre-Civil War New Orleans. Their stories echo in our architectural monuments, standing resilient today, a testament to their enduring legacies in shaping the cultural fabric of the city. Collectible vessels such as this one were never just mere containers of libations. They were conduits meant to spark conversation and resurrect memories. I have about a minute left, so I'm going to skip this next two, sorry. But I will have enough time to plug in my show. So, being in this fellowship has allowed me so much liberty and so many opportunities to do amazing things. And one of those things has been to curate my very first solo show entitled Rebellious Spirits, Prohibition, and Resistance in the South. We have some amazing objects that are going to be on view, some really fun interpretation of defiance and rebellion and race and class. It's going to be very exciting. We're opening March 1st, very, very soon, going until January 5th, and I hope to see you all there sometime. Finally, I want to give my thanks. First of all, I want to thank the Decorative Arts Trust and every single one of you standing here today. The possibility of mentorship such as the one that I have with Mel would not be possible without all of your generosity. I have learned so much as a human being and a historian, being able to have this absolute privilege of having this position, and I am eternally indebted to all of you. I would also like to thank the New Orleans Museum of Art for giving me a place to grow and learn. And finally, perhaps most importantly, I would like to thank Mel Buchanan, who has taught me so much, not just about history and curation, but about life and happiness. And I just am so blessed to be a part of her life and blessed to learn from her. I thank you for letting me teach you all of the Gen Z slang and letting me ask you a million questions. I could thank you for a million years and it still wouldn't be enough. And before I start crying, I'm going to leave. Thank you so much, everyone.